Learning your local conifers can be a really good wintertime botanical activity. I'm going to show you some of the ones that live here in suburban Lexington, Kentucky. These are pine trees. They have long needles that are borne in little bundles, and specifically this one is a white pine in which the bundle contains 5 needles. They kind of have a whitish stripe down them. I don't know if my phone will resolve that. And this is the shape of the pine cone from this tree. This is a Japanese red pine. It's in the same genus as the white pine we saw in a previous video, but it's a different species. And the easiest thing to notice from far away is that the bark is very different. And if you look at the needles, you'll see that, like the white pine, they're born in packets, in bundles. But unlike the white pine, there are only 2 needles per bundle instead of 5. These are Norway spruce. They have a pretty distinctive shape to them. And unlike the white pines, they are not native to North America. They're native to Europe, especially northern and mountainous parts of it. And you can see what the leaves look like here. And they have a sort of a prickly texture to them. And if you look at an individual leaf, it has a sort of rectangular cross section. And then this is what the pine cone, or the cone from the Norway spruce, looks like. This is a blue spruce. It's native to North America in the Rocky Mountain areas, and like the Norway spruce, it was a popular landscape tree in the mid-20th century. And in this area, it doesn't become naturalized, and many of the ones planted back then are dying off. And here's a closer look at the needles and the cone. This is Taxus, which is usually more of a bush than a tree, although that can depend on how it is or isn't pruned. It has flat individual needles that attach like so. The plant does not have a lot of terpenes in it, so it doesn't have that piney sort of smell to it. This one has chickens hiding under it. There is a native species of Taxus here in Kentucky, but this is not it. And the cones, which are present in August, become covered in a fleshy red structure called an aril, also known as a yewberry. This is Tsuga canadensis, the hemlock tree. It is a native species here and is also sometimes grown as a landscape tree. It has soft, flat needles that are whiter on the underside, and it has these tiny little cones like this. This is an arborvitae, Tsuga occidentalis, and it has a pretty distinctive looking scaly leaf. So it's not really very similar to anything else, but a flat, scaly leaf. If you rub it between your fingers, it feels a little bit sticky and has a distinctive juniper type scent to it. This is bald cypress. It has a conical base to its trunk, it has spherical cones, and it grows in water. Sometimes it also grows on land. It loses its leaves in the winter, and this is what they look like in the fall. This is the eastern red cedar. In this case, it's a very small tree, but it can be a full-sized tree, or it can be a small bush like this, and it can remain small for many years. In the wintertime, it can take on a reddish hue, like what you see at the tops of the branches here, or it can sometimes be a darker green color, which is its usual color in the summertime. It has these small prickly needles to it that are on it year round, and the cones are sort of berry-like and bird distributed. And if I back up and show you where it's growing, it's amidst a bunch of brambles and poke and other things like that. So this is a tree that is often one of the first trees that starts growing when a field is making the transition to being a forest. So it's a vital species for that process.